If you like this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, your name can appear at the beginning of this and many other upcoming videos.
Fluttershy, I'm afraid you've left me no choice. You are terminated. Well, good luck replacing me. Well, thankfully I always thought she was too controlling. You are terminated too. Whatever. Now I know, right? I mean,
Rarity, you really need to stop asking your friends to do your job. I can see that Season 8 has been playing relatively safely so far. School Days focused on setting up a school with a couple of questionable decisions in running the place, Mod Couple had Pinkie getting worked up over her sister's boyfriend, and now we have Fake It Till You Make It, where Fluttershy takes the task of running Rarity's shop a little too seriously. So how does it work out? Well, let's start with the setup. The way they introduce us to the situation and ease us into it is actually done pretty well. It's evenly paced, and it justifies why Rarity would turn to Fluttershy. She tries asking others if they were available, and it's only when every other option has been exhausted that she asks Fluttershy to try it. And from there, she gives her some assistance in getting started. From a tour of the shop telling her where everything is, to giving her advice on talking to the customers. And it's done in a way that's not too complicated, but also detailed enough for Fluttershy to get an idea of how to get around. Rarity also has a line of dialogue that acknowledges Fluttershy's growth, which I suppose does explain why she would trust her to run the store. She does have a small sense of insecurity, but is reassured when she hears about how Fluttershy is actually doing a good job. And during the second act, she actually does pretty good. The way she progressively pushes herself to adapt to each customer she interacts with is appropriate and fits the situation fairly. She puts on different costumes and acts out more confident personas to appeal to different types of ponies, and it manages to have a relatable parallel to it. It's kind of like how people dress up and act professionally for a job interview while playing off the interviewer to gain their approval. It also acts as a good coping mechanism. Whenever she feels overwhelmed by a customer, she can try on a different set of clothes and act out a different personality to regain her calmness. The way she assumes each character she creates in her mind is very convincing, starting out as an act to appeal to the customers on a public platform, but slowly becoming the mask over time. She gets carried away and ends up becoming the role as opposed to just playing a character, which is a pretty interesting psychological twist on her personality. The main group also do a nice job in their supporting roles, being characterized properly and having different methods of engaging Fluttershy's personas. They try using different methods to reason with her, and they bounce off of her multiple personalities pretty well. The raccoons play a nice supporting role too, acting as both Fluttershy's assistants and as close friends who help her in adapting to each situation. I like the continuity nod that they're the same raccoons from Saddle Row Review, and the story finds a purpose for them to be involved, acting as an outsider's perspective on how Fluttershy's attitude gets out of hand. Even some of the comedy is pretty well timed. There's snooty Fluttershy trolling the group out of the store, Rarity firing Fluttershy 3 times with her reactions getting progressively unsettled, Angel stuffing his face with lettuce when he hears he might have to share some with Rarity, Fluttershy giving away an entire accessory stand as a hat. Even the idea that Rarity actually tried asking the CMC to run the store is so awkward but also plausible in a way which makes it a nice visual gag. So what messes all that up? Well, it's that the flow of the last third and some of the second act is paced way too fast. The first half feels like it was paced evenly, but the second half has its events go by too quickly. The moment where Fluttershy starts acting like a jerk comes out of nowhere. There isn't a good enough segue into it. Was the teeth thing supposed to be some kind of trigger and it just set off her attitude problems with her personalities? And in the next scene, the raccoons are just suddenly at the School of Friendship. So they traveled through Manhattan, got a train back to Ponyville, and somehow got to the school on the same day? I'm sorry, but that's just a lot to buy into. How did they get the money for the train? And how were they even allowed on the train? Does the train just allow rodent transportation? And for that matter, what exactly is going on at the school in this episode? None of the main 6 are there, and it has to be open if Starlight is giving students a tour. So is Starlight the only teacher there? And when Twilight leaves, does she just put her in charge of the entire facility? How is Starlight expected to look after the school by herself? Isn't it irresponsible to leave only one authority figure to look over all of those students, especially one with such a shady history? Suddenly I'm thinking Brain Pony was more right about Twilight's guidelines than I previously thought. And the resolution and the ending are especially rushed. When Fluttershy is confronted about her bad behavior, all of the tension just suddenly goes away. When Fluttershy's 3 personalities are fired, her apology just kind of comes out of nowhere. It goes by too quickly, and it makes you think that most of it was done purposefully. She says that she was just pretending, which means that she had to have been aware of how she was acting and how it was hurting everyone's feelings. This would mean that she was purposefully insulting the customers, which would be incredibly damaging to Rarity's business. If she really was just pretending, why didn't she apologize sooner? And why would you overact to the point of driving away the business? Did this really just not cross her mind? And the way she's forgiven too quickly, combined with the implication that she was completely aware of her behavior, ends up muddying the message the episode is going for. And all of the customers that were previously insulted just come back without an explanation. It feels like too much is resolved off screen and they just skip to the part where everything is cleared up. It feels confusing, and the moral about being confident under pressure ends up being an afterthought. Even Rarity just leaving the fashion show in the middle of it is rushed through to the point that it has no impact on the story. There's no repercussions, no one brings it up again, it doesn't come back, it's completely forgotten about entirely. It weakens the episode's setup because the fashion show that Rarity had to go to for this story to work suddenly has no meaning. It ultimately makes the episode feel pointless because it's so void of reason as a result of all of these obvious problems that could have easily been cleared up. This is another episode that could have been a lot better, but so much ends up happening halfway through that it derails the episode's quality into being just okay. And I would really like for an episode this season to be more than just okay, because it'll result in Season 8 not feeling unique in any way. It'll end up being seen as something that just kind of happened over the course of a couple of months. Either way, this episode was fine, but not something that I would go back to very often. The first half only gets so much interesting stuff across before the second half rushes everything out. It's certainly not a bad episode like Cart Before the Ponies, but that doesn't stop it from feeling annoying half the time. With the synopsis of the next episode out, it seems like we're finally gonna be getting a standout premise for this season, but I'm really hoping that it's written in a way that's memorable. And that's it for this week's episode review, folks. I hope you enjoyed it and are looking forward to more reviews coming out in the future. Until we meet again, stay awesome. This is Map, signing out.